On behalf of Corduff Heritage Group, I would like to welcome the Friends of the International Brigade here to Corduff Community Centre today, and particular welcome to the people who have travelled all the way from Catalonia. About 6 weeks ago, I got a phone call from Brendan McConnell in Ballatrain, who had two gentlemen in his pub. And they were looking to make contact with somebody in the area who is involved in history or the heritage of the area.
So John Finnegan is one of many brigaders, and particularly the Lincolns and the Mac-Pops, because they were decimated, completely decimated in terms of they never knew where some of them went. Many of them were drowned in the river, the bridges were blown, and the fascists swept down. Strangely enough, with cavalry, which was one huge attack on the Mac-Pops, and they were cut to ribbons.
And little did I know when I answered the call that day that 6 weeks later we would have a busload of people coming here to commemorate a gentleman from the area, and a gentleman that we ourselves actually didn't know about.
Padre O'Donnell, Ernie O'Malley and O'Duffy had something in common. On the 14th of February 1919, they were involved in the attack on Chantana, some call it Ballytrain.
A battle where they fought hand to hand, where they have to fight for each hate, where it was used the most highest weaponry of the time, that a few years later was used in the World War II. A battle where not only fought Spanish people against Spanish people, Catalans against Catalans, but young people from many countries of the world came to fight, and some to die in our land.
The Caledon Courthouse, appropriately enough, to cast judgment on the events of 1919. 100 years ago, almost to the week, it was actually last week when the strike commenced.
A town where Protestants and Catholics were parading with a big long big drum and a red flag in 1919. By 1922, there's very consolidated and serious intercommunal and sectarian violence in Caledon, which is reflective really of the way that both states were consolidated. In fact, there was far more labour militancy in places like East Tyrone in 1919 than there was overtly constitutional agitation like the Irish Volunteers, the UVF or anything like that. In fact, for a very, very brief window, it appeared that there was the beginnings of something that could be called a social revolution.
That God's creation, God's new creation. And in that sense, we are moving. And both Christians and Marxists hold that in common, so do Jews, that we are moving towards a better world. And you can move with all sorts of partners towards that better world.
There were more socialist Republicans on the Shankill Road in 1920 than on the Falls Road. Think about it like that. On the Falls Road, they were all voting for Joe Devlin.
If you like, a frightening thought comes to mind that if we could come together to battle for a better future, if we have overcome the differences, that if we could look for bringing working people together to struggle in that way, I suppose what we would find happening, and this could disturb some, we might no longer need the DUP or Sinn Féin.
Murray was born in just outside Enniskillen. His father was an RIC officer in Derrygonnelly. They moved into Achanatloy, and he lived in a place called Crilly.
Callan was also famous for what some people describe as the incident that sparked the recent phase of the conflict and the civil rights movement, in that a house was squatted in Caledon to protest against the unfair allocation of houses, and from there really the civil rights movement emerged, and the first march from Killeen to Dungannon.